After a string of disappointing episode 3s in the past week, Garanndoll continues its hot streak and delivers another great episode. It does drag on a bit in the beginning, but the second half is much better. But before I get to that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this week's episode. Drop me a comment and hey, maybe even subscribe if you're so inclined. We start the episode off with a dream sequence, of sorts, as Rin has literally blue screened to death after Hosomichi failed to perform last week. It's explained that the Shark 1 is an obsolete mech known as the Type 0 Soul Infusion. It's obsolete because it's unstable and relies heavy on the pilots and their ability to maintain their passion. Reaching 0 can cause a freeze and shut down the battery girl. We're then introduced to the head scientist and mechanic, Mimi, who was Hosomichi's customer at the host bar in the cold open for episode 1. They have a weird machine that lets them go into a person's dream and interact with them. It's not something explained that well, and clearly an asshole so they can justify the sequence happening. The dream is actually a stage show for Zaburn, and if you know Super Sentai or Kamen Rider, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, stage shows are just cheap live events where the featured hero shows up to fight the bad guys in a public park as kids cheer. That's the shitty version of it, but you get my point. Anyways, the scene plays out with Hosomichi and Rin bickering and recapping their problems with each other. The scene drags on a bit too long, and we accomplish nothing with it as Hosomichi fails to wake Rin up. Hosomichi finding his true self is kinda weak too, since he sees himself as a kid in the audience and has a PTSD flashback of his dad leaving to get cigarettes. That's about it. What's really funny to me is that the whole scene is shot in widescreen, and the dialogue is two people talking about their past while trying to confront their problems. So they basically did an Evangelion therapy session, but framed it as a Kamen Rider stage show. Now that's a smart and funny way to reframe a tired trope. Any other show would have played it straight. And this dream sequence would be in a serious setting, like an empty classroom or even an empty bus or train that psychological anime seem to love. But Garanndoll knows it's not a serious show and knows its ideas are goofy. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I like how self-aware the show is. On the topic of being goofy and not afraid to show it, the Shark One's main power source being passion is actually kinda clever. Normally it'd be this stupid idea of love and romance between co-pilots, like an Aquarion and their 3 vectors or whatever it was. But in this show, the passion between Rin and Hosomichi is their love of the show Zaburn. The villains in the show are slowly revealed to be just as into this as the good guys are too. In the comments from my last episode review, All Day Corazil mentioned that the bad guys are just mirrors to the good guys. And it's true when you watch this episode. The bad guys are just characters from a fantasy-based mech show like Magic Knight Rayearth or even a Tales game. And they partake in all the tropes associated with those series. You can tell they're just as into the dumb craziness with their cool mechs and the wire stunt from last week. Hayate, one of the evil generals, also has a really funny scene in this episode when Hosomichi tries to have a serious talk with Rin during a battle, and Mimi tells Hayate that it's a talk between a man and a woman, which immediately flusters Hayate and they honor their wish to have a talk before they're killed by them. So the real conflict of the show is a super robot anime versus a fantasy mech anime. Well anyways, this was a good episode, if not a bit too long at the start. My only other complaint is that the fight at the end, while cool to watch, was one-sided. The first fight in episode 1 was like that too. I really want a longer fight so we can see more craziness happen. And that's about it. If you watched this far into the video, it must have mean you liked it, right? If that's the case, make sure to like this video and follow me on Twitter where I do mini reviews on anime. Until next time, see ya!